Back at the Coaches Association, got the All-Star Games coming up. Phil Weaver with us, director of the games. And first of all, Coach Weaver, tell us what's been going on today. What's kind of the word around the office there? What have you guys been up to on this Friday? I know plenty.
Running around frantically. No, we're football checked in today. And Grimsley Gym being refinished, so of course we can't check in where we want to. We had to make the hotel do, and thankfully the Wyndham Garden is so cooperative with us that they made us some space available. And we pulled it off, I think. I haven't heard anything from them in the last hour anyway.
So that's taken care of now. What else happens the rest of the day?
Well, when you walked in, we were working on finances for the board and, talked to them about what our current state is. And I doubt your public realizes this, but, the games lose a ton of money. The clinic carries the games and the clinic both. When Coach Jamieson and Smith Barrier started the thing, they put the games in to pay for the clinic. And, for many years back in the late 40s, early 50s, that was the case. And then as time went on, the games just got so expensive. I mean, when you consider we're housing almost 200 people for an average of 4 or 5 nights each, it's just costs are exceedingly high.
That'd be tough to keep that budget somewhere within range and reason, I'm sure.
Well, we're still talking about ways that we can try to squeeze a nickel a little harder, as Coach Sawyer used to say.
We talk about a couple of big things going on about the games, just kind of in general, but sure appealing to the public. In fact, you got Mike Krzyzewski coming in, you got Tori Williams coming in this week, speakers. Those are 2 big names at the Coliseum. How did you pull that off, and what's it like? What's the date they're coming in? What day are they? What time? All those things.
Well, that's actually one of the better ideas I've had. And we kicked it around for a while, and so we approached Mike's office and Roy's office, and eventually both of them called me, and they agreed to do it. In fact, I talked to Roy yesterday, and he said, I don't want to talk to Mac or Phil. I want somebody who knows what's going on. And then at the end, he said, I just want to tell you that we're doing this because of what you guys have done in the past and whatever. And I told him that we can't thank you enough for 2 of the greatest basketball coaches in the history of the game to come sit down and talk an hour and a half with our guys. They'll be here Monday afternoon, and it is closed to the public and it's closed to the media, other than I think TV can come in and shoot with no sound. Raycom is going to film it and do a hour condensation of it on the ACC network. West Durham is going to MC it. Joe and Mac and I came up with a series of probably 15 questions that we thought high school coaches would want to hear discussed. And as I told Mike and Roy, there's no way that we're going to tell you to stop talking if you want to talk about something else. But of course, Roy was a high school coach.
I was going to say he was up in the mountains back in the day. We're going to start because his teeth up there.
Yeah, he was at T.C. Robeson, I guess, Owen High School up there, and so he knows. He has a little memory of what it's like to be a high school coach, and I think, Mike went straight to college, so I doubt seriously he has quite the same perspective. But Roy was saying, nobody realizes that we're friends. We don't go out to eat together because we got our teams, we got things to do. We don't have time to go out to eat during the season. But he said, people are always trying to make us hate each other, but we certainly don't. And Mike was the first one accepted, actually, and it's kind of funny that in '86 he and I had a strong disagreement, let's say, because he wanted Strickland kid to come and play in the game, but not to come to practice or anything. He thought you just ought to be able to show up and play. And I said, we don't do it that way. And we had quite an argument, but I'm a Dookie, so over the years we've resolved that, and I think have a good respect for each other and each other's organizations. And of course, Roy has always been so supportive. If you get a Carolina basketball player on our roster, they're going to be told you will play in that game, and that's always been really nice to know that Carolina kid, because they're going to bring 1,000 fans probably.
Oh yeah. And not in the organization, but pretty good local contact for both Krzyzewski and Roy Williams. I'm sure he'll probably be around there Monday. He's not, but Freddie Johnson's close to those guys. He's been close to those guys for a long time too, I think.
I know he's been to practices at both their places and knows them personally.
And worked the camp at Duke, I think, a little bit. Like you worked at Duke camp years ago too, I think.
No, I went to camp there.
Yeah,
I never worked.
Part of the camp then back in the day.
No, actually, the only camp I ever worked was Clemson. But yeah, they're good guys, and when you get them away from their titles, they're just guys that like basketball a lot,
Yeah, because I've seen Roy Williams at the Coliseum for plenty of games over the years. I mean, there have been high school games during Christmas, high school games during MLK Day. Shows up for a lot of those in the scouting role and also just the observing role, checking things out.
Yeah, and we're gonna put them at center court, and they're gonna go an hour and a half with Wes asking them questions, and like I said, if they go off on a tangent, so be it. We're certainly not going to stand up and say, "Hey, get back to our questions."
Yeah, it's a luxury to get guys like that in that situation.
I think there are a lot of states when we go to our national meeting, and we talked about this, and that we were going to try it, and they sort of looked at us and said, "Yeah, right. You're going to pull that off."
Good luck getting those guys. Yeah.
So it's quite a feather in our cap. We're proud our organization's good enough that they would honor us by doing this. But we're also really appreciative that two guys that are being yanked in every direction by everybody, would find a way to give up the day we need them to come and relive some of their college stuff and try to help high school coaches navigate all of what's going on now with NIL and then even though it doesn't affect high school coach directly, that kid's probably going to come back to him and say, "Coach, I want to go in the portal. I don't like it at wherever I am." So I think there's a lot of stuff that they'll impart to our guys that will be helpful.
And you say it's going on Monday, which is a good thing too, I guess, because that's the same day of the basketball game. So it's all a big basketball day on Monday then.
Monday at the clinic is basketball day, yeah.
What about the other thing, kind of talking about the big events going on? It's going to be the last year, I guess, of the football in the basically summer, but it's also the first year of football in the summer and in the winter in December. So the football is changing, evolution going on there. That's a big move coming up here.
It is, and I said we were talking about money. Now we're going to put on 2 games in 23. I'll wager hardly anybody knows it costs us over $100,000 to put on a football game.
It's tough.
So that's one thing we were talking about. But football coaches have been after us for years to move to December. But, weather is problematic. We had things going well, and Coach Jamieson always felt like the games and the clinic were married together. And I hope he's going to treat me well when I see him, or hope I see him
again, yeah,
someday. But it just came to be that we were losing so many kids late. The Division I's weren't coming; they're in college, so we haven't gotten those for several years.
Right.
We were getting some Division II and mostly Division III. Now there's some good football players,
sure,
and we've had good games, but it was here we're losing 6, 7, 8 kids the last week or so because now they've finally gotten a place to go, and that new college says, "Well, no, son, you need to be here in summer school and at our workout, so you can't play." And so now we're going and finding somebody else to come in. One year it was so bad that the coach ended up on his 8th quarterback.
Wow.
Now, some were Division I, and we knew we weren't getting those.
Didn't work your way, yeah.
But still, the 8th, and the kid played well. But you'd like to do a little better than that if you're going to call him an all-star. That was kind of, and the kid doesn't know he was the 8th. We never told anybody, but and then there was a lot of speculation the Shrine Bowl might fold. Now they said they weren't, and they said they were good, but all the speculation was that they might not be around. So what we did was met with the Shrine and South Carolina Athletic Coaches Association, which is our counterpart, and let's work together. what can we do for football? So what we're going to do is come in here, I think it's October, I don't have the calendar, and sit down with the Shrine coaches and our coaches. So we'll have our 12 and their, I think they have 6 coaches all in one room, our boardroom right back here. And we'll say, okay, the Shrine, take the 44 kids you want. So they'll get the top 44 kids. And, you know, we'd butt heads with them if it wasn't for the Shrine being a charity game.
Right.
But I can't look myself in the mirror and say, I might have cost the Shriners Hospital some money if I butt heads with the Shrine game. That's just, you know, that's not going to happen. And I don't think our football coaches would like that either. So after that, then we're going to take our 36. Now that's what, 80 kids. Well, there's far more than 80 quality Division I football players in this state. You know, this is one of the top 6-7 states in the country for football talent, probably. I mean, you got California, Texas, Florida,
Georgia.
the obvious ones, Georgia, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina's got a lot, but you get after that, you know, we probably got as many or more than anybody.
Right.
So we're gonna have 36 good players, and then all the pool after that is going to be available for either team when somebody drops, but the Shrine can't come to our 36.
Once you get that 36.
I mean, our 72, I'm sorry.
Once you get 36
36 each team, yeah.
72, that's locked in.
Right. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about 114, 116 total maybe. Mm-hmm. But anyway, those will be locked in for our game. So if the Shrine takes 2 good quarterbacks, we got only the 3rd best quarterback in the state, you know, well, they can't come back and get him. If somebody drops, that's too bad. He's committed to our game. They're not going to touch him. They'll have to go beyond that to the pool that remains, and that's the same pool we'll draw from when either of us has an injury drop or something like that. Plus, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say there's been so many changes over the years, because now it used to be you had those guys from the summer, they're getting ready to go off to college, but by now a lot of these guys are going off to college in December and January. They're not even that early these days. Makes for a different thing. The high school guys are committing and they're going on to college in January to be at the school early. So, I mean, you got to get them in.
The top kids are gone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we'll do is we'll play state championship on the on the 10th, I think it is, of December, and then on the 16th the Shrine game will play. That's a Saturday, and then Sunday afternoon we'll play on the 17th. If a coach has got a kid in each game, he can see both games. If you're a fan, a real football fan, you can go to both games.
Diehard high school football fan.
Yeah.
So Sunday afternoon then.
Mm-hmm. I don't like playing on Sunday, but we'll do a little. We'll have a college. I can't think of what your chaplain or whatever you call it. Come in and talk to the kids that morning, so they don't feel like they're not doing right. And we'll play at 2:00 in Jamieson, just like everything. Of course, that means no more fireworks. So this year we're having the last fireworks.
So you got the fireworks
maybe ever
again? Maybe, yeah.
It'd
be hard to do this for basketball indoors. Definitely hard to. Well, soccer, I guess you could do that for them. Maybe if that was something that fit. But the soccer game lasts long. It's such a time-consuming thing anyway. But 2 games being a long game, so like you say, it could be the last one.
Soccer's got to bring some attendance before we can afford to pay for football.
Yep.
I mean, for fireworks.
Right.
It's just their attendance has fallen off more than it should.
What's it going to take to pick it up, you think, for the soccer?
I think the soccer coaches are going to have to get together and say, hey, we're going to have to promote this thing or whatever. But, you know, basketball's not that good because you got thousands of all-star basketball games on TV now. We're just another game, whereas we used to be, when I was young,
right, the game.
You looked forward to the all-star games. There was nothing.
Yeah.
The summer was baseball, and that's it.
Yeah. The all-star game.
If you want to see football or basketball, you came to the all-star game.
That's where you got it, yeah.
And, of course, you know, back in the day, we used to fill Jamieson.
Certainly. 8,000, I guess, sometimes. Right at it.
We probably had more than that.
I was going to say rough estimate, yeah.
Back in the 60s and stuff. We'll still get anywhere from 5 to 8 or 9 now based on the weather.
Right.
But you know, if a couple clouds go over that afternoon, then a
scare a
bunch
few
of folks
people
say,
off.
"Well, we're not doing that."
Yeah.
And there are always the freeloaders that park all over the place to watch
yeah,
the fireworks
Yeah.
and don't go to the game. But you know, $10 is still a pretty cheap ticket.
Very good deal for a football game.
Yeah, we'll go to 50. We'll go to whatever the state charges for their championships in December,
Right.
and probably have to follow next summer with the same increase.
The thing I liked about that soccer game last year, while we were on that point just a little bit, last year the soccer game, the girls especially, it was an interesting game because the East, I think, defeated the West in that ball game, but the West, young lady in goal, she took on like 40 shots and stopped maybe 39 or whatever, and she was the MVP of the game, little girl.
Well, I coached my kids in soccer for 10 years, and Stacy played all the way through semi-pro, my daughter. So,
yes.
so I've seen a lot of soccer, and that's one of the greatest performances you'll ever see. I mean, she was a wall. If they hadn't snuck that one in on her,
Yeah.
no telling.
Yeah, I interviewed her after the game. Her mother used to be an NC State basketball player back in the day. Her mother's last name was Howard.
Really?
Either Jennifer Howard or Beth Howard played for NC State back in the day. A lot of talent in the family as far as athletic
Okay.
skills go. But that little girl, I think she went to Vanderbilt. I think where she went to college, possibly. I think it was Vanderbilt. I interviewed her after the game. Just an outstanding young lady, though. Really
Yeah.
impressive. And to win that MVP on a losing team, a lot of character there.
Well, that doesn't happen very often, does it?
Not I've ever seen. No.
And then the boys' goalie was a replacement player, and he won the MVP.
Oh, you got to love that, too. Gotta love that. What about local impressions this year? I know we've got some local kids, Grimsley kids in the football game. I talked to Reed Holmes about that because football players
Good.
checked in. He saw those guys coming in, and talking to Reed about Khalil Stimson from Grimsley, and then a young Albright kid from Grimsley, and I think the kid from Seagrace and Dudley's checked in. So some good local input there too.
Right, and I don't know if you're aware of it, but he's the 5th Albright, I
Oh
think.
yeah, I saw on Twitter. I saw the family lineup. They had the Albrights across the line
Yeah,
there.
Father Doug played in 57, I believe, and then Bob, who was one of my good buddies, played basketball with me, played in 65 and tried to guard Maravich
Him and who else?
to notable lack of success.
Yeah.
And then Stewart played, I guess, in about 86 football, and went on to be on Duke's last ACC championship team. And then Ethan played in 89, but played basketball.
Sure did.
And he was North Carolina High School Athlete of the Year.
Yeah.
And then 17 seasons in the NFL, and now Nolan. So that's pretty cool, really.
It's quite the lineage, quite the tree going right there. No doubt about it.
And, you know, we've picked up Earl Vaughn, one of your buddies,
Oh, yeah, out of Fayetteville.
as our social media guy, and he's finding all sorts of
a lot of stuff.
connections with current players and uncles or fathers or mothers or whatever that played years ago, and that's always kind of cool.
A lot of good things going to games, and so you got the football going again, the last game of the week next week, and the basketball and soccer lineup too. Why? Some people pick this up automatically, but tell us your reason and explain it just a little bit. The football arrives first, but the football plays last. How does that work?
If you've ever coached football, it's self-evident. It's so complicated compared to the other two. I mean, truthfully, you could take a soccer group and a basketball group and roll a ball out and say, y'all go play. And it would be presentable. Well, you couldn't do that with football. It'd be a disaster. You know, and to try to put in a blocking schemes and particularly try to get a running game. Quarterback and receivers don't know each other's routes or how the receiver's going to run the route. You know, your 3 steps and my 3 steps aren't going to be the same because we're not the same size.
Sure, different approach.
And the quarterback's got to learn to adjust to read when a guy's going to come out of his break and that sort of stuff. And you got special teams, and it's just so much more complicated. Basketball, you can say, okay, we're going to do this. You're going to, if you pass it, you screen away or cut to the basket. Okay, we're going to Dean Smith's old motion passing game offense. You know, if you don't have the ball, screen down or cut to the basket and go out the opposite side. You know, you can put a few rules in and have a presentable game. Soccer, these kids have played so many times. All you got to do is say, all right, you're going to play a 4-4-3, and you're on the right front. You know,
just get the right position. They're ready to
yeah,
go. Probably.
and they know how to do all those formations. So all you got to do in soccer is put some set pieces together.
Right.
You know, what are we going to do on a right side or left side corner kick, that sort of thing. So that's why they stay longer.
Right. Now, back in the day, you used to come in with basketball when you had just two, basketball and football only. Basketball would be Tuesday, football would be, I think, was it Thursday back in the day? But then you went to the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday series. That was probably to get people in and get them out quicker, I guess. Was the reasoning?
Well, no. The clinic has shrunk now to a 3-day clinic. So football's done on Wednesday now. So Thursday game would be out. That's out there. Basketball, we were losing really good kids because their colleges would let them come. They'd say, "Hey, you can have them for a day, but I don't want them missing 2 days of summer school or whatever." So that's when they went to Monday, so that they could miss Monday morning's classes and play Monday night and be at Tuesday's classes. And most colleges were cooperative.
Right.
The only problem we still have there is if they're playing at UCLA or something.
Yeah, West Coast.
They can't fly home. I mean, that sort of thing.
Good example of that. I talked last year, the year before. Mariah Frazier played at Ragsland at Dudley, and she was going to Appalachian. So she told me that night, I'm here tonight on Monday. I got to be back at Appalachian on Tuesday. So that explains that completely right there. Got to be right back to school.
And we haven't had that problem with soccer kids because not that many of them are going in early, like basketball kids are.
Yeah.
It'll change because soccer coaches in college are going to want them to come in, and
it's just a matter of time, right?
They're going to get greedy. Yeah, it's going to happen. So, but also the soccer community is so much smaller. The names, probably the last name anybody could tell you would be Eddie Pope.
I was going to say about that. About the early days, Eddie Pope had to play.
That's 20 years ago.
Yeah, now he's a big time operator in the soccer world. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We were hoping we'd get him to speak at the banquet, but things didn't work out.
Yeah,
so.
but that soccer group is a tight knit group. It's a small group. It's a very protective group, very individualized group too. They look out for each other in their own special ways.
Yeah.
What about, here's a question for you, basketball, going back, kind of a throwback question. Back when you were the basketball coach at Grimsley back in the day, had those very good teams.
The ancient days.
Girls basketball, 5 Division I players that one season. Hargrave, you had Lucas, you had Amber Cook, you had Fields and others. And
I'm impressed.
Yeah, and what about, did anybody off that team play the All-Star game? Just asking the question.
Yeah.
Who'd you have?
Trumet was the MVP.
MVP, that's super, yeah.
And Kristen Fields played.
Yeah.
And against South Carolina, Nicole Hargraves played and Lucas played. So we had 2 in each game, which is the max.
That's good stuff.
That was a good crowd.
Because I just saw Amber Cook's picture the other day in a little small local newspaper article.
Oh, really?
She was playing for this team called the Craze, women's basketball team. She's still playing for the Craze. Seeing her still active really got my attention. The Greensboro Craze, a local women's basketball league they've got. Kind of like a semi-pro type league. She's still playing.
Amber got far too little credit for the skills and the contributions she made to the team. I saw a middle school game where she stole the ball and broke away. I knew she was coming to us the next year, and this little sub was in and was running down the other side, and Amber slowed down and made sure she gave her the ball. Amber should have scored. I mean, she was ahead of the pack.
Yeah, because she kind of got the last deal that year as far as the college.
She did, but she ended up being captain at Maryland Eastern Shore and had a really good career there.
Kind of remind me of a Chris Paul player like sometimes, just knowing so much about the game and seeing so much of the floor and be able to do those type things.
We were in the Little Four finals and against Northwest, and Northwest is always a pain for us.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody shot, and the clock was running down at the half or the third quarter maybe, and the ball bounced, and she caught it in the air and shot it and scored, and the horn went off when the ball was in the air. I mean, that kind of presence. A lot of guys don't have that kind of presence either. Quick
reaction.
Yeah.
And knowing what to do when you have the ball in your hands in that moment.
Well, I'm glad you remembered them.
Those girls, I mean, that 5 that time, I mean, that was so much for all those kids. I remember just a backstory, we're talking about Phil Weaver, kind of Phil Weaver podcast about All-Star Sports Day, but going back, I'd heard the story, just a story, maybe it was true, maybe it wasn't. Anyway, Treme goes to Northeast Guilford to get ready to get chicken school there. She gets there that day, her and her mom, they're going to sign up, do the application form, all that process, but the people there, they were very rude to her. They didn't give her the place of the time. And then all of a sudden she says, well, gosh, I need to go to a good school. she comes to Grimsley, and the rest is history, which is kind of nice in some ways.
I hope that's not true. I don't know.
It had a bad experience at one school, ends up at another school, and works out good. But Tremaine Lucas, as a guard, she was also very strong as a guard.
Tremaine's, there are two girls I coached in how many years that were beyond the norm for a female physicality. I mean, she had abs and shoulders that were just solid as any man that lifts every day. And Rita Barrett was the other one, softball player for me anyway. And I remember posing for a picture for the MVP at the East-West game with Tremaine, putting my arm around her back because I think Kristen was on the other side maybe. And holy cow, this girl is cut.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, she was really strong. And, of course, ended up being Deladon's point guard at Delaware once she transferred from Florida.
Right.
And your folks might want to hear this, might not, but she always kind of wanted to go to Carolina, I think. And when she transferred from Florida, they didn't have an opening or didn't recruit her anyway. I called them, but... So when Delaware played Carolina in the national playoffs, you know, she had 20 points that night and I don't know how many assists and whatever. So for her, it was pretty sweet game, I guess.
Absolutely. The funny thing about this is, and the kind of the fun thing about this is, you run the games, but you also have a lot of memories of the games yourself, going back to the games.
I had a few kids in it. I guess Eric Summers was my first, played basketball. Ethan played basketball. I know I had more. And Felicia Tate played with the girls.
Kid, yeah.
Yeah, been pretty fortunate to have kids that were that good.
Here's one thing to bring up since we're in the conversation. I thought about some things I'd asked Phil Weaver about when I came into that. I didn't write them down. I just try to remember all these things. What about going back, because you have a lot of coaches in the Coaches Association. That is an understatement there. But think about a couple we've lost in the past year or two. I remember very well, especially within the past couple of months. Coach Bill Slate, 91 years old.
Yeah.
Coach Marion Kirby, 80 years old. Lost those two guys in the past couple of months.
People don't know this. I'm sure this is not known by anybody probably, but Bill Slayton used to come up here every summer and bring his registration card and bring us a present. I mean, he valued this association, and you know, we valued him, of course, as everybody did that knew him. And of course, Marion was our executive secretary for several years, long time. I guess he started in the late '80s and served until his health started going down. But that's been, it was really painful to watch Marion go down because he was always such a fun guy and you know, knew everybody, and he could talk and tell you stories as long as you listen. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
And to watch him go into that decline was just really hard. But what a great square shooter. You know, Grimsley people and Page people are always talking about the Owen recruiting and all that. And, you know, I was told, like, you can say what you want, but I can guarantee you Marion Kirby doesn't do the recruiting, and if they're doing it, he's not knowing about it.
Right.
Because he's as honest a guy as I know.
Yeah, he was such a coach. A lot of guys were just kind of gravitated toward him and wanted to come play for him because it's such a good program, such a good coach to be around.
Well, I mean, you know, you talking about Tremaine and Kristen transferring in. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know those kids were coming.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, they thought it was a place for them, and that's what they did. And
it worked.
And Page's football, you can't. Well, Mark Lewis is a perfect example. I was a counselor at Grimsley, and he came and interviewed at Grimsley, and he met Coach Smouse, and you know, I'm sitting here looking like, my gosh, basketball player, I could use this guy.
Yeah, certainly.
So I was putting a hard sell on him because they were coming up from Alabama, I believe it was.
Right.
And he ended up going to Page because he was going to be a football player. And darn if he didn't end up killing me all the time as a basketball player and played at State, of course.
6'8", Mark Lewis, that's right.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, listen, a lot of good things there with Phil Weaver. A lot of good things get off the shoot a little bit. Good to talk about many things that have happened over the years around the games. Give us again the inside of the games because you've got the Monday, the Tuesday, the Wednesday. Tell us what's happening on those days and how each game is taking place.
Okay. Monday we'll be at the Coliseum. Girls at 6:30. The guys will be, 20 minutes after. And you know, I got to tell you this. Some people trying to make this political, but Mark Robinson is a Grimsley graduate,
Absolutely.
and he is the lieutenant governor of North Carolina, and he's going to do the ball toss for the boys' game. Now, we've got a request into the governor to do the coin toss at football. That make Democrats happy.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, unfortunately, it's so much political.
So Mark is a Grimsley grad, by the way.
Yes.
Absolutely. Good.
And so, you know, we're hoping that the governor will come, but it's not looking good.
Did Mark play
right
any
now.
sports at Grimsley? Any sports?
No, he was an RTC guy.
Oh, military man. He's looks like a big man now. So
He's huge.
Yeah, I was being. Yeah,
I'm worried about his size sometimes.
Yeah,
but, Joe and I actually went down after he got elected, and he wanted to hear stories about Coach Hickey, and we just talked about Grimsley, and he was so far removed from it, being in that you know, that office and whatever. So you know, I think he gets a little bum rap. He's really a nice guy.
He just got
to sit down and talk with him. You say, you know, I agree with him on that. I agree with him on that. Even if you don't agree with some things he says.
He's got some firm beliefs, and that's the way it is.
He's an honest politician.
Right.
My gosh,
Can't get those anymore, do we? Can't find those.
Well, they don't tell you what they really believe. They're going to tell you what they think you want to hear.
So you know what
Mark's not going to do that.
You know what you got going in, yeah.
Absolutely. He is who he says he is. Well, anyway, so the guys will follow about 8:45, something like that, and you know, we will play overtime in basketball. We're going to have a winner. And then Tuesday night at 6:30 at McPherson, we'll have the soccer match for the girls. And then the guys will play at, you know, right after the girls, which is basically 8:30, because you do the time, it works out for about a 10-minute warm-up. And we're usually out of there a little after 10:30. And then Wednesday night, of course, at Jamieson at Grimsley, we'll have Joe Franks Field.
Yes.
We'll have the football game. It'll start at 8, giving people to travel from across the state and get fireworks in at the same time.
And if it's real warm, a little extra hour sometimes gives you time to cool down a little bit more.
And I think people kind of forget that really it's by the time the first quarter's over and the sun is down, it's pretty comfortable even if the day has been really, really hot. So $10 for all tickets, any game. And basketball, you got to go to Ticketmaster. We don't sell those out of our office. But you can go to gofan.co, which is the strangest. It's not .com, it's .co, and get football or soccer, or you can get them at the gate. We're not going to sell out Jamieson. We're not going to sell out McPherson. If we do, you can stand.
Sure, glad to have
you. So we'll
you.
always sell tickets, and I don't think we're going to sell out the Coliseum.
And you offer sell at the gate for the football and for the soccer?
And basketball, of course.
Yeah, right.
You know, you can get them at the Coliseum, not pay the surcharge.
I got you. Okay. So you don't have to buy them online necessarily. You can get them at the gate that day.
Oh, yeah. And it's all general admission, so you don't need to buy them ahead of time unless you just want to. We do have, I'm glad you got me thinking of that. We do offer group discounts of 10 or more. We take $2 off the ticket. But you got to get them through our office or any of the games.
That's a good thing, too, for some people coming out of town. Maybe a high school wants to bring a group
we sold
in.
39 yesterday to one person. Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing there, yes. And the Shriners, we talked about them earlier, good thing about having a connection with them, they also help you with the parking, I think, for the football game, right? As far as
I feel like we help them because they keep all the proceeds, and all the proceeds go directly
They're a part
to
of it
the
then.
hospital.
Right. That's a good thing.
So we say it's $5 suggested. If you don't want to pay it, we're not going to fight with you. But a lot of folks throw a 20 in there when they know what it's for. So, and you're going to pay the $5 to park at the Coliseum.
Certainly, yeah. Well, going into the games this year, 2023, kind of give us how you feel right now. How you feel going in? I know it's still early, but so far, what's it feel like?
Coaches have done a good job. They're excited. The office feels like we're pretty well settled. It's our 75th. We're excited about that, certainly.
How many have you been involved with now, 40-some?
Well, I was born in 47, so my first game was probably when we moved to Greensboro in 51. I would have been 4. So probably since 53, I bet I've seen every game.
Wow.
But I started as a bus driver in 70. Officially, I was a manager when I was a junior and senior in high school, so I saw those games certainly, and bus driver in '70 for football, and then stayed with Coach every year since. So this is my 53rd round of games, I guess.
53 years.
I guess. Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Well, it would have been 71 as a bus driver,
Okay.
so this would be the 53rd. Yeah.
Talk about bus drivers. Let's talk about a lot of things today. How's our man, Mr. Sawyer, doing these days?
Bob's still kicking.
That's what I like to hear. Yeah.
You know, he's graduating 55, so he's 10 years older than I. He's 86, and he's.
He would drive that bus if allowed right now. Wouldn't he love to drive that bus back in the day?
I think he probably has decided that
It's better not to.
He's not as mobile as he was,
Right.
but you know, Bob's still on the Grimsley Alumni Association board of directors, and you know, a lot of swimmers come and ask him to do stuff with them.
He's got a lot of knowledge upstairs, Mr. Bob Sawyer, no doubt about that. A lot of knowledge.
He's been around a long time, done a lot of stuff.
Yep, he's brought it all together over the years. So going in, do you think maybe this year the excitement of having Coach Krzyzewski and Coach Roy Williams come in, is that a good thing going in? Has this added some extra excitement this year, you think?
You know, I can't imagine a basketball coach in North Carolina not being here Monday afternoon. I mean, that would be just, to me, inconceivable. And I would suspect there's some football folks that say, I'm going to go in a day or so early. I want to see that. Yeah, it's brought a lot of attention to the clinic, which is good. Because a lot of times people don't realize that the clinic and games bring over $10 million a year into the local economy. That's from the CVB. We got the figures this spring.
Mm-hmm. How much again?
Well, it was $10,600,000 and some thousand.
$10 million, a lot of money.
Impact on the local economy.
Yeah, the mayor should be happy about that. Yeah,
absolutely. And Joe did a great presentation at the Sports Council back in June, and brought that out, and the room just sort of went quiet because these are business people, and they had no idea. You know, we're a pretty well kept secret, unfortunately.
Yeah, you got the little building here on the corner going into
Nobody
Grimsley.
even knows it's here, even the Grimsley kids.
Unless you're coming in here, sometimes you forget about it. Yeah. And the good thing about the coaches clinic too, people don't realize over the years some of the big names you've had. Just one name hit my mind, maybe not big to some people, but I see this guy I developed over the years. You think of a guy like Fisher DeBerry back when he was on his way up going to Air Force. You've had some big names come through here and lead these clinic sessions.
Well, now there's one moving to the game to December now allows Joe and Mac to bring in Division I football coaches. We couldn't bring them in for about 6-8 years because the NCAA had a rule. They always got a rule to mess up something, you know. So now they'll be able to get, you know, Elko or Clausen or, you know, whoever they want.
Right.
I think that will help football some.
And the good thing about that, you used to get a lot. The good thing about you would get the head coach. If you get head coach, sometimes you get part of his staff. Those staff members were good because eventually the staff members, they become big names too down the road somewhere.
Well, and they're the ones that do the teaching most of the time.
The coach just stands up on like Mr. Bryant did. You get up on top of the little tower and see what's going on.
Yeah, you got to be an organizer if you're a head football coach in college. You don't do a lot of instruction.
Delegate duty, right?
If you don't, you're going to lose.
Absolutely.
I don't even know if you've seen the picture in the hall here of Bubas and Dean Smith and Fred Schabel from Ohio State. I mean, they all were here 1 year. Same year.
Yeah.
You know, you name anybody from before 90 that was a big name coach, and he was here.
I remember you had guys even in the wrestling field, like a guy like Bob Lamb, I think his name was back in the day. All those coaches
got a lot
came
of
through.
Folks out of Nebraska and Iowa that were big time wrestling coaches.
So what does Phil Weaver and his crew do the rest of this Friday? The rest of the day, what are you guys up to from now on until the day ends, if it does end?
Well, we've talked a while, so I don't know what's hit back there.
Right. What happens next when you walk out the door?
You know, I've got Reed Holmes, who's a baseball coach at Southwest, who I stole away from Brendan Chrisman because he used Reed to practice. We practice football over there, and I stole him away to presumably take my place some day fairly soon, and he's top notch, and you know I can trust him. Clayton Nance, runs football for me, and Reggie Peace, who used to be at Smith, now Lee County, runs basketball, and Herc DeGraw, who is Mr. Soccer. We call him the legend just to make him feel good. You know, he runs soccer for us, and you know, they're going to handle all the minute-to-minute stuff, and then the athletic trainers that Mark White from Southeast has corralled for us are from all over the state, and they're just great people. They do what you want, and they're going to decide if you practice because of weather. It's not going to be a football coach decision. If you get hurt, you're not deciding if you play. The coach ain't going to decide. The athletic trainer is.
Right.
That's their field. And so we've got them in place. Malia has come on to replace Miss Tamblin, who died, and now she knows how everything runs, and she's a great PR and a front desk person for us. And it's just Tim Vi takes care of the banquet. I don't know if you've ever been. You need to come. And it's open to the public.
Right.
We got Wayne Robinson speaking this year.
Big Wayne, yeah.
And he'll do a great job. And, we'll have about 550, 600 people there. And we just got people that know what they're doing.
It all comes down to the team behind the team, then, pretty much.
It's not me. It's the staff. Yeah.
Hard to beat that team behind the team. And Coach Mac Morris is still going strong too.
Yeah. Always have an opinion if you want one.
That's the man to see. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Good man. Has worked hard over the years, and he has helped you. You guys have worked together for many, many moons.
He's very bright, and Joe calls him Macapedia.
Macapedia.
He doesn't forget anything. He's got like a photographic mind, and his memory is just. I'm always going in there and saying, Mac, I can't remember. What is it? He'd know.
Yeah, well, he was always a great teacher at Page, what I heard, as well as an outstanding coach.
I'm sure he was.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't want to coach against him,
right? Except
to have said once you finally beat him that you did.
Sure, you definitely earned it, I'm sure.
Right, yes. Exactly.
Coach Weaver, thanks for your time today. Good luck on the games this year. And again, one more time, Monday basketball, Tuesday soccer, Wednesday football. Going to be a busy time for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you. And Andy, as always, we so much appreciate your dedication to high school sports. It's just you're fewer and farther between, and you're much appreciated.
Like they always said, it's not whether you win or lose, it's being able to play the game. If you play the game, still play the game, it's all good.
Play it hard, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.